Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer. And now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Hi, it's Tal Cloud with another edition of Connect With Me, filling in for John Mallows as he's out today. Today, we're going to be talking about Common Core. And is it a top-down national socialized education system that will slowly destroy your children's mind? Stay here and find out. We'll be right back.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
All right, it's Tal Cloud for another edition of Connecting with me with John Mallows that I'll be filling in until Wednesday for today and tomorrow. So we got a great show planned for you today. I think a lot of people think, what is up with Common Core? What's wrong with Common Core? You hear so many negative things about Common Core. Have you heard anything great? I haven't heard much. Hopefully we're going to change that today. There's some school districts in this valley that have chosen to take a different approach. That approach is a partnered approach with their teachers, with the parents, with the school district, with the board members. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Common Core and its effect in the school and in the classroom, and some of the issues that have come about because of Common Core. It depends on how you want to run Common Core is how successful it'll be in the classroom. If you want to fight it, then that's what your school district should do. But if your school district wants to try to embrace it and look for the best to help their communities, maybe that's what can happen. So today we're going to be talking about this show with John Mallows and Jodee Marcellin of Sanger Unified School Districts about what Sanger's doing with this project. But you also, if you want to watch our show, you can go to Comcast 187 or Xfinity TV, also 43.6 Me TV, and live at 13.1 Me TV. Replays at 2 to 3 o'clock on 13.6 and YouTube. Also, the replay tonight at 8 to 9 o'clock on 13.5 and Biz TV. If you want to be a part of the program, you can give us a call at 436-ME-TV, option 11. John, Jodee, welcome to the show. We're looking forward to having a great conversation today. And when we come back, we're going to start the conversation with John and Jodee from Sanger Unified.
It's almost time.
Now we'll find out once and for all about Clark Kent and Superman.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a TV show.
Yes, but who is he? What's his name?
He's Superman.
Golly, Clark, won't that be wonderful seeing Superman?
Fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and television the Me TV way.
No one can do the things that Superman does.
The adventures of Superman.
Now on Me TV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Hi, it's Tal Cloud. We're back again in studio in beautiful Ventura TV. If you haven't been down here, you need to come down. It's a great spot, beautiful appliances for sale. You know, with live TV, you never know what's going to happen, but today we want you to be a part of what happens. If you want to give us a call, it's 436-ME-TV, option 11. John Yost is Assistant Superintendent of Education at Sanger Unified, and Jodee Marcellin is Director of Program Development at Sanger Unified. And as I was saying before the break, there's a lot that's to be said about what's going on in Common Core. And I think a lot of people don't understand Common Core and how it's approached at every school district. And you hear all the clutter about it, but you're a medium-sized school district. You're not the smallest in the world. You're certainly not Fresno Unified. Give me some feedback on how you approach Common Core and how the implementation of Common Core is going for Sanger Unified and what you're doing with that.
Well, Tal, I think we have a saying that we've adopted in Sanger, and we say it's new, it's harder, but it's going to make us better. And when we look at what the Common Core is asking and what the Common Core is about, we believe that matches what we want our kids to leave our system with. I was up at Google last week and learning about technology and how it fits in education, and they started sharing some statistics about what our employers saying? What is the industry saying? What is higher education saying about what they want in the students? And the number one thing they want in students is to be problem solvers. So when you look at the Common Core, there's a real high emphasis with students being able to problem solve. And so we've embraced it, our governing board has embraced it, and we're excited about it, but it's hard.
But I mean, a lot of people have been told that Common Core is this top-down, you do it my way or the highway, you got a bunch of strings attached, and you're saying your board can make differences and you can have flexibility on how you do it. I mean, how is your district preparing for Common Core?
Okay, the first thing that we're doing to prepare Common Core is we have to support our teachers, because we had 97 standards, 1997 standards, what we followed prior to Common Core. So standards have moved, grade levels, there is new standards in there. We have to train our teachers. The number one area that has been a emphasis for us is with our elementary teachers and implementing the math standards of Common Core. It's asking us to teach our students to a much higher level, so that students walk away with not just being able to understand an algorithm, say how you add a 2-digit by 2-digit number, but really understanding what's actually happening, the concepts behind mathematics. So with that being said, we have to ensure that our teachers have the content knowledge, and a lot of our elementary teachers, they're multiple subject teachers, they're not a math credential, so we have to give them enough professional development to help them do this successfully.
And to kind of add to that too, what we did was we kind of scaffolded this for the teachers. So last year we started with just the math standards instead of giving them the ELA and math at the same time.
ELA is English?
Language arts, correct. Okay. So that way they weren't overwhelmed by having to teach 2 sets of brand new standards. So we started with the math, and this year brought on the ELA standards as well. So we had that flexibility.
And how has your school board been feeling about this transition? I mean, they're the ones that are, they see the transition, they hear it from the parents, they hear it. Mm-hmm. You hear a lot of meetings going on where people are out complaining, there's groups going to all the school board. What's your school board's opinion been so far?
I think fundamentally they're very supportive of it, because they know that the end outcome of what we're trying to accomplish is a good thing. I think there's anxiety, because when you look at other states that are further ahead of us in our implementation of Common Core, when you look at how they have performed, the scores have gone down. It's not that the kids are any less intelligent by any means. It's that what they're asking the kids is more rigorous. So I think there's some sort of anxiety with all school boards of our scores going down. But there's such a deep belief that what we're doing and what we're preparing our kids for is the right thing.
But if your scores are going down, does that have to do with the scores are going down because there's broader knowledge that you're trying to instill upon the child, or is it just a different way of taking the scores or counting the scores?
It's actually a little bit of both. So the way we're assessing is completely different. It's going to technology, it's adaptive. So in other words, when a student takes a test, it adapts based upon how they're doing. But the main reason why the scores have gone down is what we're asking kids is more rigorous. It's harder. But that's what we're trying to get to, because what the industry is saying is we're not preparing our kids well enough for what's expected of them at the collegiate level, what's expected of them in the workforce. A great example would be is when you get to college, you have to be able to read a textbook and to read it in very detailed, oriented manner and gather meaning from that. Well, the current standards don't call for that, and the assessment doesn't call for that. So what we're asking kids to do is of a much greater demand on them. And so if it's just like anything else, if you raise the standard, with everything else being the same, your scores are going to go down. But it doesn't mean that kids are any less intelligent, kids have any less ability. We'll have to adjust it, and I think it's going to make our kids better.
And that's kind of maybe what you're trying to do in the implementation of this, Jodee, with what you see and as you kind of look at the data after you go through your first set of testing to understand where you did well and where you did not so well? Is that
correct? And you actually mentioned too that they're broader. These standards are actually more narrow, so it allows us to do less standards and go deeper, where the other standards were so broad. It was more like a shotgun approach. So these standards are more, they're complex, but they're also going deeper. And also with the assessment, they're being asked to really apply their knowledge. Before it was more about memorization. This is really about learning it deeply and having that conceptual understanding and then applying that knowledge. So the type of assessment is different for the students as well. So that also leads to why some of the scores have gone down.
So, and the knowledge, some of the knowledge that you're giving these kids, obviously, it's not just about going to college. It's not just about going into a trade. You're trying to teach them to think and broaden their perspective on the world, and but go deeper to understand more meaning. Is it what you're getting at?
Yeah, and so in what our mission is in Sanger Unified is that all kids, when they leave our system, they're college or career ready. So in other words, we want to make sure there's doors open for all kids, not some kids, but all kids. And it doesn't matter whether you talk to higher education or you talk to employers, the number one thing that they're saying is they have to be problem solvers. Another one is they have to be team oriented. They have to be able to work in collaboration. Very few jobs you work in isolation. That's another skill that both higher education and our industries are telling us we need to do that. So that's built into the Common Core where kids are working together.
That's great. Well, listen, when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. If you want to be part of the program, it's 436-ME-TV, option 11. It's Tal Cloud in for Bill Manders, live in beautiful Ventura TV studios. We'll be right back.
This fall, there is a place, familiar and inviting, timeless and warm. Me TV, a place all your own that you can call home.
Hi, honey, I'm home.
This fall, home is where you'll find me.
You mean to tell me that's all there is to it?
That's all.
Me TV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
A top secret location. It's the spies who love me, bringing together Me TV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
The old finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
Me TV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Hey, it's Tal Cloud in for John Mallow, so I'll get it right here. This is live TV. I'm a rookie, so you're seeing it. You're watching a little train wreck every now and then live. But it's Tal Cloud in today on the beautiful Ventura TV studios with John Yost and Jodee Marcellin from Sanger Unified. We have somebody sent in a question for us, and on yesterday's show there was mention of vocational training and some of the what's going on with vocational training. Will Common Core make vocational training instruction more difficult or easier, or what's it doing? How does Common Core affect what's going on in vocational training?
Well, probably the first thing it does is it embeds cross content areas. So, for example, most high schools and Sanger Unified is going down this road of developing what we call pathways. So, for example, I know yesterday you had our ag department on, and so there is a pathway for ag science. Well, you have your math teacher, you have your science teacher working with that. So you have...
That would be some of the stuff that's going on with the PALM grant possibly, and some of the... Yeah, I think we had some B-roll from that.
Correct. So we have... So when kids are working on it, they're learning some vocational skills, but they're also learning that content knowledge from multiple subjects. And so what we're trying to do is create different exit points for different types of kids.
So, right. So, and I think on the screen now we're seeing some of the PALM grant where they're learning how to grow different things in their classes, and some of those trying to get real life experience into the classroom. Is that what some of this is all about right here?
Yeah, correct. And so what we're trying to do through this is develop what we call different exit points. So if a student, when they exit our system and they want to go into a vocational, so they're going to go work for an ag industry, they can do that. but we want it to be an and, not an or. So when they leave our system, they can also pursue higher education in the area of ag. So it's not an or, it's an and that's what we're trying to do.
I think that's an interesting point. So to be clear here is that your approach, which is developed by your board and your local district, is say and or, not just one or the other. Like in a lot of cases, ROP now is just more vocational without the focus on moving to the next level if they want to go to college. What you're saying is you can go vocational or college.
That's correct. So we work closely with Valley ROP, and we're in a JPA with them, and we're working closely. So every time we are looking at our program of different pathways at the high school, we bring the ROP into the conversation, say how do we fit this together so that there's multiple exit points for
and that
students.
gives a student more opportunity when they come out of high school and come out of education.
That's
and
correct.
I guess that's what's kind of interesting that I see is that you hear, again, you hear so much negative, but it's how a local district is doing it. I had a conversation with a new Reedley board member, and I was saying it's not really about anything the superintendent's doing. It's about how you lead the superintendent to implement the program the way you want. And with that, is there anything, Sanger, that is different or unique in your approach, maybe to other districts here in the Valley or other areas? Anything you've done unique?
Well, Tal, I think the first thing I'd say is we have a different culture in Sanger, and in our opinion, the quality of the teacher has the greatest impact. And so we really think differently of how we help our teachers. So we believe that we need to break down the walls of classrooms, and what I mean by that is that no longer we teach in isolation. So we provide opportunities for our teachers to work together, to collaborate, to make sure that the practices that we're using in implementing the Common Core, and even with the 97 standards, that they have all the skills necessary. We don't believe that it's healthy for a teacher to work in isolation, where they walk in, they're in those four doors, and they never get to talk with anybody. So that's something that Sanger's really developed a great reputation of, and is serving ourselves well with Common Core, because teachers have to learn from it. This is hard work. This is not easy work.
If you want to be part of the program, give us a call at 436-6388, option 11. To ask a question. If you have any questions to ask, feel free to give us a call. Jodee, what do you see some of the biggest challenges of the implementation for you? You're involved in writing the program, etc. What are some of the biggest challenges the hurdles you've had to face so far?
I think the biggest challenge would be a couple things. Is the volume of the brand new standards. They are new. So we've really worked with our teachers on what they already knew in the former standards and how they can apply that knowledge to the new standards. The other piece in the video that you just showed with our ag is a great visual of applying those standards. So it's not just about the kids memorizing these new standards, memorizing the new information. It's really about real life application. We do that all the way down to kindergarten. So the pathway that the high school, that's a great application of taking the knowledge of learning in the classroom and then now going out into the farm, the greenhouse, and actually applying that real life information.
Great. Caller, you have a question for one of our guests today?
Yeah, I was messed up in the school system. I'm 68 years old now. And I was going to go back to school and get my GED. And when I went back to school, I was taking English, and I was doing just fine. And then I went back for my second go-round, and the teacher was teaching a 180-degree different way of teaching. Maybe to get all these teachers together and teach one way of teaching, and so that each individual teacher having their own way of teaching.
Okay.
That might be a head start for you. And oh yeah, by the way, I graduated from the Job Corps program. It's great.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, how is the caller mentioned about multiple teaching, I guess, ways of doing it? So where does that play into Common Core?
I think that goes back to the collaboration that John was talking about. Part of our success in Sanger has been that collaboration, and it's not just in the classroom, it's across the school, and it's also across the whole district. So we have a common language, so it's not Stepford Wife, you don't go and see the exact same thing, but they're really informing each other, and they're building that common knowledge and that understanding together. In addition, our students are doing the same thing. It's not just about the teachers collaborating, it's about students collaborating. So that's a big difference with the Common Core standards as well. It's not just the sage on the stage anymore, it's student-to-student collaboration.
So you're getting kids to work together in groups to solve problems, group which is really the reality of what we have to do in everyday life, is
Correct.
solve those problems in daily life. So
Right.
that's what you're trying to teach the students to do?
Correct.
Well, that's a piece of, I think, one of the myths of education. There's only one right way to teach something. There's only one instructional methodology. That's so untrue. First of all, you have all different types of learners in a classroom. Not all kids learn the same. I think the other thing that when I was up at Google last week and listening to some of the things we're working on, our kids learn differently now than when we were in school. We didn't have devices. We didn't have that access to information.
Mm-hmm.
So schools are having to respond to those changes in how kids learn. So technology is going to play a bigger role. That's,
Well, yeah, I mean, you see kids all the time now with their phones popping up. Hey, I want to go to the movies, or I want to, who did this, or who did that, or what's this, or what that. And it's there in 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to an Britannica and open it up and reading through and try to find it. So I think teaching those kids some of that is important.
And actually, when learning takes place is changing. It used to be if you wanted to watch a TV program, you had to be in your seat at this time, and that's when you watch it. Now, you can watch it anywhere, anytime. Well, the same is true with classroom. Learning is not going to take place from when school starts to school ends. We're expanding that. So in other words, learning can take place before school, after school, weekends, and that's how kids collaborate. That's how kids work together. And so, there's things such as flipped learning, to where when we get technology in the hands of all kids and they all have access, is what Sanger's trying to move towards, is you can tape a lesson. The homework is the kids watch the lesson, and then when they come back to school, they're working through problems, and the teacher's there on hands-on to work with problem solving versus being that stage on the stage situation.
Right.
So there's all different types of methodology.
Okay.
The key is making sure you know what's being effective, what's not going to be effective.
What are some of the what are you doing to educate the parents and help the parents through this process? And what are they learning from it, maybe along with their children? Because I know a lot of them complain about doing the homework. It's not the way I did it.
Mm-hmm.
When I was going to school in the 70s and 60s and all that. So what are you teaching the kids?
We have a lot of different venues. Again, talents of our different teachers. Some teachers are actually putting their lessons on the internet so the teachers can access it, and then they can see step by step how that lesson's been taught. Others are actually having parents come into their classroom and they're going through a lesson with them, or they're going through different problems and showing them how to do that. We're having forums. We're having a lot of different ways of not just giving them information, but building their own understanding.
That's great. We have another caller. Caller, what's your questions for our guest today?
Well, a question I have is, does Sanger schools, on Pacific schools, do Pacific vocational skills by chance?
So that great question. So vocational skills specific to trades within Sanger Unified, Jodee or John, what specifically are you doing?
You want to talk about the nursing program?
Go ahead.
So, we have several different pathways at the high school. So we have a certified nurse's assistant would be an example of one thing, and that's okay for some kids. So we have multiple pathways of that. We have a great firefighting program that's through ROP, so kids can leave that program. But I'll go back to the PALM Ag pathway that was.
Well, let's continue that after the break. We're going to go to break. It's Tal Cloud on the set of beautiful Ventura TV. In for John Malice. He'll be back on Thursday. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
This fall, there is a place, familiar and inviting, timeless and warm. Me TV, a place all your own that you can call home.
Hi, honey, I'm home.
This fall, home is where you'll find me.
You mean to tell me that's all there is to it?
That's all.
Me TV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Frigidaire. It means the first electric refrigerator. The first compact electric range. Now, there's the Frigidaire Gallery Range with Symmetry double ovens. It's designed to cook multiple dishes at multiple temperatures, so you can prepare the entire meal at the same time. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
All right, it's Tal Cloud back in the studios live in Ventura TV. If you want to be part of our program, it's 436-6388 MeTV, 436-MeTV, option 11. You know, John, we were talking before the break and a little bit over the break about the parents' involvement. So what are some of the other issues that you want to let people know how parents can be involved in Common Core?
Well, I think first of all, it's wise for any school district and any classroom teacher is to get the parents in and talk about it, because it's really a lack of understanding on a parent's and it's not their fault. It's just this is new. So Jodee mentioned earlier that one of the things that we're really working towards, and a lot of our schools are working on, is we have Common Core parent nights, and we bring the parents in and we'll actually take them through some of the things their kids are doing, so they see not just what they're doing, but the why. And I think sometimes they just see the end product, and that's what creates some of the misunderstanding, because they don't see everything that happened prior to getting to that end product and the why. And it goes back to this, it's not just about understanding, say, an algorithm in mathematics. It's actually understanding the concepts behind the mathematics, because when you get to higher level mathematics, not only do you have to have the algorithms down and that precision down, you actually have to understand what is actually taking place
and why it's happening.
And why it's happening. And
right.
so that's some of the myths. And so the only way you can bridge this gap with parents is you got to bring parents into that. And that's what we're doing.
But part of the issue, I think, now is a lot of the kids they've been learning a certain way for 10 years, 8 years, 9 years. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones now that you're trying to flip them, or what are you doing to help that transition? Because the kids in high school today have learned a certain way all the way up until this year or last year, and now all of a sudden it's just flipped on its ear. So I don't know how you change that, and I think that's some of the parents I've heard concerns about that.
Well, that's another one. I would say that's another myth. So you look at the mathematical practices within Common Core. One of the things that you do is you teach them multiple problem solving, multiple approaches to that. So it's not about knowing just one. It's okay. So if a student understands and knows one way, that's great. But we're trying to expose them to other ones as well. So there's nothing wrong with that one way, but sometimes that one way doesn't work. And so we're trying to expose them to different ways so that they can draw on different experiences.
Well, we had a question that was sent in. I think we can put up on the screen on how to do a math program. Or not a question, but a video. I mean, a picture of a math program, and maybe Jodee, if you want to explain that, and you give us your thoughts on that. It's on the screen now.
And this is a great example, Tal, that you were talking about. This looks like a student who has been learning algorithms, so they're really they're struggling with how to explain their thought process in doing this. Excuse me. So they're saying, well, my brain told me how to do it, so that's just the answer. What we're doing now is we're really going back and we're helping our students conceptually understand what that math looks like and giving us a relationship with the numbers.
So in this particular example here, the question is 17 blue cars and 25 cars at the store. How many cars did you see? So you're giving them a written question, which they write down below, and then he got it in his brain, or she got it in his brain, but you're trying, this is early on in the process?
Correct. So what we're working with them on is mental math and that fluency of math, just like you would with reading. So in this case, I would like to get the student to seeing, okay, I took 7 and I took 5 and I made a 12 out of that. What we're trying to get them is to use that place value. So now that I have the 12, I'm going to add 10 of that to the 2 and the 1, which is actually 20 and 10. So now I know I have 40. My leftover was 2. So it's getting them to be able to do that mental math. So when they do get into algebra, they have that fluency, because a lot of our kids who are struggling with the algebra right now, they don't have that mental math. They don't have that fluency in numbers, and it's kind of like a student who can't read and they're not able to comprehend.
Great.
Right.
Caller, you have a question for... Oh, missed that one. Sorry. Call back. It's 436-6388, option 11. We have a lot of callers. If you want to call in, be part of the program, we'd love to have you, because there's a lot to learn about Common Core, and that's what I wanted to try to do today. So back to that example. I mean, it's just not 2 plus 2 is 5. I mean 4. It's
correct.
There's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
But I think here's one big myth about Common Core in mathematics, and because I've seen posts on the Facebook and things where, they're not attending to precision. That is definitely not the case. Matter of fact, one of the mathematical practices that's built in the Common Core is the attention to precision by kids. They have to learn to be accurate. So when you think, oh, it's fuzzy math, that's not. There's still that precision, but what it is, it's actually tying in other mathematical practices into Common Core. It's not just about precision. Mathematicians their whole role is to make things efficient, to create shortcuts. That's fine when you really understand it, but you can't get to the shortcuts until you understand the math behind it. So, for example, when you say 7 plus 5 on that case and it's 12, when you say carry the 1, you're not carrying a 1. You're carrying one group of 10. So when you're trying to teach a student place value and they say, well, I carried a 1. No, you carried one group of 10. So when you put the 1 over the tens column, that's actually 10, not 1. That's that concept that you have to build in kids, because when they get in higher level mathematics, it messes them up.
Caller, you have a question for one of our guests today?
Yeah, well, the question's for both of them. You know, I graduated at Sanger High, and we had a good program with FFA and whatever. I wish we would have had them. I wish we'd have had them there. I like their concept and everything, because you know, I'm coming from the '60s, and that's a way way back. So we didn't have anything near what they're having instilled already, and it's really good, because you not only use your brains, you know, and then the concept of getting this and that, you know, backing, but I wish we'd have had them, your guests, you know, even 30 years ago, you know, but I enjoy what you're putting now.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Play.
Thank you very much.
Keep doing it.
Thank you. John, you were in the classroom 30 years ago, weren't you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, John, John's been in the classroom, I think.
Sanger High School graduate.
Yeah, you're Sanger High School graduate. So you've been in the classroom, and Jodee, I think you've been in the classroom as well as a teacher.
I actually taught at Sanger High School.
Yes, as well. So you've seen the classroom, and so you're really trying to develop what you learned in the classroom. You've moved up the ladder, so to speak, and now you're doing this now.
Back to the caller and some of his comments, I think the other benefit that we're seeing with Common Core is really the engagement of students. Learning's not passive. Learning is very active. And so what Common Core is really asking is for kids to be active in a classroom and to think. And when you talk to...
But that's what a lot of people say. Kids don't think these days. They can't think. All they want to do is play on their games, and that's all they can do is play on their games.
Yeah. Personally, I haven't found that to be true, at least in our classrooms. And I think when you give kids the opportunities to engage in problem solving and things that are relevant, I think one of the issues all schools are facing, and I think Common Core gives us an opportunity to bring this in, is relevance. In other words, I often get the question, why am I going to school? That's what kids would say. Well, with problem solving, getting them to bring in relevant problems into the classroom engages kids. I find kids care. I think kids deeply care. I think where we have faulted in education is trying to keep up with the relevance of education. I think Common Core provides the perfect opportunity to engage kids.
And speaking of,
well, we're going to go to break. We're going to try to keep this show relevant to you. We appreciate you watching from the beautiful Ventura TV studios. We'll be right back after this message.
Attention all units. We have reports of 2 motorcycle cops protecting California's highway.
That's for us, good buddy.
The Men of Chips are on MeTV.
Hi, I'm John Baker. I'm John Baker. It's Officer Baker.
He's the blonde one.
Hi there.
Officer Poncherello, man. Frank Poncherello.
Oh, I'm Frank Poncherello.
And he's the one who's Eric Estrada.
There's no way I wouldn't remember a name like that.
Catch the blonde one and the one who's Eric Estrada on
now
Chips.
on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law, and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
All right, it's Tal Cloud in with Connect with Me. You're watching a show today from Sanger Unified about Common Core and how that it's relevant to the students and what we're doing with the students. And we were talking before we went to the break, and if you want to be a part of the program, it's 436-MeTV, option 11. But, kids playing on their computers, Jodee, and, that's a lot of complaint about that. They're not present at the time. They're not paying attention. They're just playing their little games. And how do you take take advantage of that maybe with Common Core, what you're trying to teach kids?
One of the things that really engages kids when they're playing that game is that they can continue to fail and fail and fail, but they'll continue to play. And the reason is they're getting consistent feedback on how they're doing. So we use that same mindset in the classroom. The more formative feedback we can give kids on how they're doing it and more consistently, and the quicker we can get that to them, the more engaged they're going to stay. So that's something that we really pull into the Common Core in the classroom.
Yeah. Well, that's good. We had a question from a viewer. How does Common Core compare to No Child Left Behind? You know, is that something, is that a hot potato? You know, what's the comparison between No Child Left Behind and Common Core?
Well, no Child Left Behind is more of an accountability issue. So basically what it's stating is there's accountability with the federal funding that comes from our federal government. Common Core is more on the what. It's the standards of what kids are learning. And of course, with Common Core came the new assessment through Smarter Balance, Smarter Balance. And so assessment's changing, but No Child Left Behind is a separate issue. We're waiting to see whether the federal government reauthorizes NCLB and the changes with that. But you know, we don't wait for that. We continue with the implementation of Common Core. So
what I would add to that too is the philosophy of No Child Left Behind is we want to ensure that all of our students are engaged, and that's really our vision in the district, is to ensure that all of our students have that ability to demonstrate their learning. So we're really moving to a more personalized learning model, like John was talking about before. It's that anytime, anywhere model. We want to give control to kids to be able to determine the time, path, place, and pace that they have that learning, whether it's flipped learning, whether it's doing it at home, whether they need to watch it multiple times, but it really adjusts for the variability in our students, whether they need enrichment or they need that intervention.
Until I think one of the challenges with Common Core all districts are facing is, you know, we have a lot of teachers who, when they were in school, they taught the way they were taught. And so we're talking, students are learned differently. They have different motivations. So this is going to be a long haul. This is not a one-year transition. This is going to be a multiple-year transition, because we're trying to create new technologies and bring technology a bigger place within education. That takes time. People don't change overnight.
Well, one thing I think Sanger, a lot of people may not know, but Sanger is a turnaround school district. You know, explain that and what some of the things you've done, and what have you learned from your past successes, you know, from turning around the district. I mean, 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, Sanger was in turmoil, you know, going through superintendents like crazy and school board turning over daily, and now you're one of the top school districts here in the valley. So how has that approach been with what you're doing?
Well, I'll share a little bit. You know, we were one of the first program improvement districts in the state of California. When the program improvement, and that's the sanctions that go along with NCLB, we were one of the very first set of districts to be in program improvement. And basically what we did is we changed how we functioned. And so basically what we changed is we are going to collaborate, and we're going to keep learning at the center of our business. We're not in the teaching business, we're in the learning business. So we constantly look at learning. We constantly look at data and how kids are learning, and we use that as our GPS of how we operate. So we're constantly looking, what are our test scores and what are our classroom assessments, what are our observations telling us, and we're constantly adapting to get to the best practices, and that has served us well. The other thing, and I think this is a challenge all school districts, is trying to narrow the focus, only a few initiatives. And I think what's all school districts are struggling with right now is this transition to Common Core is huge. It is big. It's multifaceted. We have, right now in education, we have new standards, we have a new assessment system, and we have a new funding formula. So those three have created a lot of stress on education, but what has helped Sanger is to stay focused, keep learning at the center, and engage the community, engage our teachers, engage the parents in the process so that they feel like they're connected.
And I think that's probably, you know, a big part of what you're trying to accomplish is keeping everybody connected in it. What are some of the myths about Common Core that, you know, you want to dispel? And maybe, I guess the thing too is I want to come back to your point you made, and you can answer the question. Because you're a smaller district, it's probably a lot easier to manage some of these issues than a huge district like some of the larger ones. And so I think that's probably an advantage to you, but I know you've had a lot of success turning your districts around, so that's great. But I mean, what are some of the myths as well about Common Core?
I think the one I mentioned earlier, I think it's the one I hear more than anything, is this myth about mathematics. And so they see problems coming home, and they don't see, well, just add, 18 plus 24. Just teach them the algorithm. And they think, I learned that way. That's the easiest way to learn it. And going back to, that's what mathematics is. It's about coming up with the shortcut, the simplest way to do it. And that's good. We still will teach that algorithm. We will still teach that precision. But it's more than that. And that's a hard message sometimes to convey to parents, of them to see the importance of the why behind it. And the only way you can do that is you have to engage your parents in that conversation and talk about that and listen to their concerns. And I think advantage of a smaller district is that messaging. So, in a larger district, you have so many layers, from the superintendent, the school board, down to the actual people at the school. There's many layers. In Sanger, it's small. It's myself, principals, teachers, parents. So we can have that succinctness of messaging.
And it can go right up the ladder because it's a smaller district.
That's correct.
That's great.
That's very much so.
Well, we're going to continue with this conversation when we come back from break. You're watching Connect with me with Tal Cloud in the beautiful Ventura TV studios. If you want to be part of the program, it's 436-ME-TV, option 11.
Almost time.
Now we'll find out once and for all about Clark Kent and Superman.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a TV show.
Yes, but who is he? What's his name?
He's Superman.
Golly, Clark, won't that be wonderful seeing Superman?
Fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and television the Me TV way.
No one can do the things that Superman does.
The Adventures of Superman.
Now on Me TV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
All right, you're back with Connect with me with Tal Cloud, and we're in with Sanger Unified Assistant Superintendent John Yost and Director of Programs Jodee Marcellin. So thank you. It's been a great show. I mean, we've talked about it earlier in the show about some of the college readiness, some of the career readiness, but how does Common Core guarantee fit in those? How does it fit in those programs? And if my kid is not going to go to college, he's not a college child, and they're really good at a skill. Why would they even care about how they learn math or how they're learning? How's that going to help them moving on?
Okay. Well, I think when you look at any job, there's a skill set you have to have. And so you find it, and this goes back to an initiative that we've started in Sanger Unified on early literacy. A student's ability to read and comprehend is foundational to this. And so we have to, all schools have to ensure that when kids are in their primary grades and before they get in the upper grades, where they start getting to the application to a much greater level, they have to be able to read and comprehend. Very few jobs, even to fill out the application, you have to read and to comprehend. There's job interviews. You have to be able to communicate. So all these skills, and that's really going back to that study that I was got shared with me up at Google, is looking at that skill set that industry is telling us. And it's no longer just a local economy, it's a global economy. So this study came from that, showing what our kids need. And that's what's driving where districts are going, is because we have to give a product that's useful to our community. What we're trying to do in Sanger is, it's not just affecting these kids, it's affecting our entire community. If we have dropouts, that affects our community. We don't want any dropouts. So we're trying to make sure that all of our kids, our goal is 100% of our kids are college and career ready, so that it helps the community. It's not just about our kids, it's about our community.
That's important.
And it's those 21st century skills that they talk a lot about: the creativity, the problem solving that John was talking about, critical thinking. It doesn't matter if you're going to school, if you are going to be in a career, you need all those things, and we do those every day in our careers. We have to collaborate with others, and oftentimes we collaborate with others that are in other districts, and we have to utilize video conferencing or Google Docs and that type of thing. So we use those type of strategies in our classrooms to prepare our students, so it's second nature when they do go into college or into a career.
So here'd be a great example is, in the old days in a science class, you had to memorize the periodic table, and there's still a point for that. But you can Google that and get all that information. The key is understanding what's in that periodic table and what are the implications, the applications with it. And we can have lots of examples of those types of things. This study, literacy with the 6 number skill. So they're saying there's 5 other skill sets that are more important to industry. So it's not that literacy is not important. We're not getting away from math literacy, kids' ability to write and to read. But what the industry is saying, it's not enough.
What's the number one issue?
The number one issue is problem solving.
And that's at the bottom of all this, that's really what you're trying to teach with Common Core, is having people think outside of the box and understand how outside the box worked and how they got there.
That's correct.
And part of that is it's saying that knowledge is really the commodity. So students have to be able to, they can go on and Google, but they have to be able to curate that information. They have to go and figure out, is that information even reliable? And pull all this information together to actually use that critically. And that's really the skills that Common Core really speak to.
It's some of the groups I've seen. California's United Against Common Core is one of the groups. They have a pamphlet out, and they're saying, all these people are making all this money, and the cartel is making these questions, and companies are going to get rich. Bill Gates is going to get rich off selling the computers to all the kids. How do you respond to some of those kinds of the complaints? You see those on the internet all the time. Is this flamboyant complaints, and how does that play back down when you come back to the local level, like Sanger?
Well, I think, Tal, in any education system, we have vendors. We have vendors before there was Common Core. We were buying things from vendors before there was Common Core. All it is that Common Core is pushing certain things more than others. And let's go to technology. Yeah, does Common Core draw in technology? Yes, but let's ask why. Why are we bringing technology into education?
That's a good question. Let's get this question first, and we're going to answer that when we come back. Let's get this question. Caller, you have a question for our guest today. Thanks for calling Connect with Me.
Yes, I was wondering, it seems like everybody's directed to go to college. I mean, college is where you have to go, and the cost is getting higher and higher. But vocational training isn't being taught that much. You don't have shop classes anymore, automotive classes. Is it being just given over to like a secondary education where when you get out of high school, you can go to that if you don't go to college? And that's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, caller. Yeah, we're looking, I think, at a shop class right now.
Yeah, and actually, we've talked a lot today about the Paramount, the pathway, the ag pathway. And the great thing about that is, I don't want people to think that it's just going out and working with plants. That encompasses engineering, welding, mechanics like that you're seeing on the screen right now. We're looking at other pathways as well, and part of the mindset behind that is we don't want it to be narrow. We want it to be as broad as possible. So a student could go into ag pathway but never want to be an ag, but they have the ability to be an engineer, a drafter. They could be a mechanic, welder, whatever. So we have a lot of plans, and we have some current pathways already.
Right. A great example of that would be is our certified nurses assistant. So when they exit our system, they have a certificate and they're employable. So there's that option. I think where Sanger is trying to do, and this is tough work, is it's not that or college, it's both. So when they enter into that, if a student such as the caller chooses, okay, I want to go down this vocational route, that's fine. We'll have those avenues. But there's also has to be the avenue of the kid that wants more than that. And it's changing, and so we're constantly trying to work at both of those, and I think that's the tricky part, because if there is a need for that. And so, for example, in this Palm grant, Palm is in our backyard, their plant, and they want to hire our graduates. We're trying to build ones that want to go that route. They can go and be employed by Palm right after high school.
which is unique, and that's one of the things. Being here in the Central Valley, we're so lucky that we have the greatest agricultural region in the world, and we have so many opportunities for kids to go either way. They can go in the trades, or you can go to college. Okay, when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation on Connect with Me with Tal Cloud, filling in for John Mallows. We'll be right back. If you want to be part of the conversation, it's 436-6388. That's 436-ME-TV, option 11.
Ladies' Night was started in his honor. Bar stools pulled themselves out for him. The only thing Chuck Norris is afraid of is her. Cheers is the most memorable bar in the world. You may not always watch comedy, but when you do, watch Cheers.
Me TV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Frigidaire. It means the first refrigerator. It means a history of innovations that help make your home life better. And now we introduce the new Frigidaire French door refrigerator with over 100 ways to organize for maximum flexibility. Built with adjustable flip-up and slide-under shelving and stackable crisper drawers. It's the refrigerator that flexes to fit it all, no matter what your day will bring. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
All right, it's Tal Cloud in on Connect with Me for the last segment today. It's been a great day here at Ventura TV. If you want to be part of the program, we've got about 9 minutes left at 436-ME-TV, option 11. You know, before we went to break and before the last caller, we were talking about, you know, how some of the vendors make money and, you know, maybe forcing computers in the classroom. And what's your take on all of that?
Well, sort of as I got started before we took the call was, vendors of school districts buy things. I mean, we're buying desks, we're buying you know, materials, publishers, those type of things. We've always done that. That hasn't changed. What we're purchasing is changing. Yeah, we are investing heavily into technology. I know Central has launched a one-to-one. We are moving down that path. Every district is because...
When you say Central, they've lost, when you're talking about one-to-one, I think that's a computer for every child, one computer
Correct.
for every child.
Correct.
And they've had a rollout. I think LA Unified has had some of that as well.
Correct.
The bigger districts obviously are having trouble, but I think Central rollout's been pretty successful.
Yeah, and we're going down that path, and we've met with Central, making sure we understand what they've... So, yeah, we're buying technology. But we're not buying technology because of we want to spend money with this vendor. That's what the industry's asking for. That's the world our kids live in. They have to have those technological skills. When you talk with Palm and you look at what does a kid have to do when they work for Palm, there's technology involved in that. There's very few industries that don't call for technological skills. Plus, it enhances learning.
And what we know, too, is we assume a lot of our students who are lower socioeconomic, they do go to college, they drop out because of money. That's actually not true. That's only 8% of our students. The students who are dropping out of college are those who are not ready. They're not ready because they haven't had the opportunity to be on computers and devices. They're not ready because they don't know how to be in the classroom, to collaborate, to have those critical thinking skills. So we want to ensure whatever that venue looks like, that we give our kids access to that.
Great. Caller, you have a question for our guest today?
I do. Or a question and a comment, I suppose. I am an educator. I'm a career substitute teacher in the Kings County system. And my question or my comment is, why is it that in history, as a history major, and I teach mostly history, that he talked about the relevance of things, that they don't talk about the raising the flag at Iwo Jima. It's considered irrelevant. They don't talk about the founding fathers other than George Washington. They don't even mention.
Is that in curriculum that you have?
Fathers, and those are considered irrelevant. I think for math, and I do sometimes as a substitute teacher, I have to do math, and they have about 9 steps to do 6 times 4, which is
okay. All right.
nuts. But I think that this giant money program is probably something not unlike a thing called new math they had in the 60s.
Okay, all right.
A giant boondoggle because kids couldn't multiply, but they could tell you how to do it, but they couldn't do it.
All right, well, we'll answer that question, sir. Thank you for the phone call. Thank you for your service to the children of Kings County.
Absolutely. And with the Common Core as well, the math and the English language arts standards, those are the ones that we're really addressing. There are no history or social studies or science standards per se. What they really are is literacy across the content. So the specifics of what type of history we're teaching is not part of the Common Core.
I had a history teacher tell me that part of, because I've had that question before on another show I was doing, where they were talking about there's some of these things aren't being taught, but the reality is that there's more flexibility to teach the whole process within there, and I don't know of any particular book, but again, that could be specific to the district. What books they buy will represent what's taught, and that's up to the school board, and that's, I think, and that might bring up a good point that I've seen from other teachers I've talked to, is that if the school board chooses to buy a certain style or type of book, or the leaders, then you may not have some of these subjects in there. And
that's correct. So, for example, we have a very formal adoption process for textbooks, and part of the process is all of our board members, they will come in and they will actually look through the materials in the textbooks, because they're going to either approve or disapprove whether that textbooks. We work with our community, we actually work with our teachers in selection of it, but ultimately it comes down, our school board either approves it or doesn't approve it. And if it doesn't contain the materials that our governing board wants in it, they can say, nope, we're not going to accept this, go find another textbook. So it's definitely local control.
And the flexibility that we can have too are looking at those essential questions. So in a social studies class, I could ask students, how does the culture of a society affect economics? And with that, I could look at a lot of different societies, a lot of different economics. It doesn't tie me to one specific part of history. So I think that gives us that local control that you were talking about earlier as well.
Yeah. I want to go back to the caller's comment about the new math, and because I think this can't be overemphasized enough. The Common Core asks for precision, and anybody that tells you that's not the case, there's this fuzzy math, the new math, that is not the case. You have to teach kids. As a matter of fact, it's emphasized even greater at the younger ages, so they have those math facts down. They have that fluency with math facts, because there has to be that precision. When you're in the industry, you can't make mathematical errors.
Right.
You have to be accurate. And so if someone is telling you that it's not calling for precision, have them read the 8 mathematical practices. One of them is attention to precision, and that is foundational. But it's more than just precision. It's about that problem-solving creativity.
Well, it's funny you talk about math, because some of the employees that work with me, we've had a test where they read a tape measure, and I am shocked at how few people can actually read a tape measure. And I would hope that Common Core will teach people how to read a tape measure, because it's amazing when you go to the 30 seconds and the 5/8 and 3/8. Which is larger? Ask a question. Which is larger, 3/8 or 5/8? Or it's really there's a lot of confusion.
Or 3/8 and 5/16.
Yeah, and 5/16 would be a better example.
And that's a great question too, because it really, going back to what John was saying, it goes back to that conceptual understanding. So we're going to help students visually understand what is the difference between 5/8 and 3/16 visually, so that when we do get to the algorithm is then going to be an efficient way to get there. But first, before they get there, they have to actually figure out conceptually what it looks like. So it's really about them, whether it's multiplication, whatever. In multiplication, they could draw 4 circles of 8. And once they figure out that that's what that means, then we'll start teaching them, okay, well, that's actually 4 times 8. And that's a more efficient way to do it, but they'll have that conceptual understanding.
30 seconds, anything to close out with?
No, I would just encourage parents and community leaders to get involved with their district, to reach out to them, to ask the questions, because it makes us better. And it helps bring them into the conversation. So reach out to your school board, reach out to your teachers, wherever your role is, a parent, reach out to them and ask them to come in and help you with them understanding Common Core, because I think understanding is why we're having difficulties.
Right, and I think that's one thing we've done as parents in Sanger Unified, and why I'm a big proponent of it, is that when you were teaching at WAMS, we went and talked to you about WAMS and why we should go there. And it's been real good. So I appreciate you guys coming in today to talk to us and maybe explain this, and hopefully you and the viewer, you have a different perspective of what's going on with Common Core today than you did in the past. We're going to continue on tomorrow. We're going to continue on with some other small businesses. Tomorrow we're going to do small business on somebody just started a business, and one of the oldest businesses in Fresno County that's been operating continuously. Also, we're going to learn about how to get small business loans from Central Business Finance. So we have a lot planned for you tomorrow. Wednesday, my last day here on the show, and John will be back on Thursday.